No, they did. I talk about in this book. There's someone who did work for the Bush administration, also came forward and told me about Rove's reaction to Fahrenheit 9/11, and they were so afraid that this movie would be Bush's undoing at the polls, and so they immediately concocted their campaign to go after me and the film. They did polling around it. They were very worried, and they decided to spend a lot of time and money on Michael Moore.
They said they were going to destroy you.
Yes, that's right. That's okay. As he said, bring it on. What else am I?
There's so much to talk about, and I know you have to go, but very quickly, we just interviewed former Florida Senator Bob Graham, is calling on President Obama to reopen the investigation into the September 11th attacks after new information emerged about the possible role of prominent Saudis in the 9/11 attacks. According to recent news reports, a wealthy young Saudi couple fled their home in a gated community in Sarasota, Florida, just a week or so before 9/11, leaving behind 3 cars, nearly all their possessions. The FBI tipped off about the couple, but never passed on the information to the September 11th Commission, even though phone records showed the couple had ties to Mohammed Atta and at least 10 other al-Qaeda suspects. So this is what Senator Graham had to say on Democracy Now! About why this case matters, and I want to get your response.
One of the questions around 9/11 is whether these 19 hijackers were operating alone or whether they had a support network that assisted them and gave them anonymity. It's been my feeling that it was very unlikely that they could have been successful without such a network. We know a great deal about the network component that existed in San Diego. What we've just learned is about another pod of this network in Sarasota. What we know to date is that there was a wealthy Saudi family living in a gated community near Sarasota, which had numerous contacts with Atta, the leader of the hijackers, and 2 others who were doing their pilot training near Sarasota. We also know that this family left the United States under what appeared to be very urgent circumstances on August the 30th, 2001, just before 9/11.
That was Florida Senator Bob Graham on Democracy Now! Michael Moore. You did the film Fahrenheit 9/11. You were dealing with this. You were talking about President Bush allowing the plane of the bin Ladens to go out of the country when all other traffic was stopped.
Not just the bin Ladens, but many Saudi individuals. And I also documented how the night after the second night after 9/11, Bush had the Saudi ambassador over for dinner, and then they go out for drinks or at least the Saudi ambassador did, and they went out on the veranda there and overlooking the south
Truman balcony.
The Truman balcony, that's what it's called. And
told us in the film.
Right. And of course, what was I accused of at the time? Well, conspiracy theorists and all this. Well, it was just the facts. And it was a legitimate question to ask if 15 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, why, when no one else could fly, could all these people connected to the Saudi royal family fly, and the bin Laden family could fly? And things like the FBI wanted to go immediately to Saudi Arabia and interview friends and family of the hijackers, because they're police. They're doing an investigation of this mass murder. And the Saudi government said, no, the FBI can't come over here and talk. And the Bush administration just went, oh, okay. It's like, well, wait a minute. But I documented in the film the close financial ties, the money that had been paid to the Bush family over the years by the Saudi royal family, the connections with the bin Laden family. It was very, you could see why the decisions that were made in the hours and days after 9/11 took all the focus away from who might be responsible and put it toward, as Richard Clarke said, by the second day, they were already discussing invading Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11. So, but I put, Fahrenheit 9/11, we started making that the month after the war started. So all of that stuff in that film we put all that out before any of the mainstream media was covering it or saying these things. And, do
you call for a reopening of the investigation?
Oh, absolutely. I think Bob Graham has said that Fahrenheit 9/11 had it right. He's come out and I was like, wow. somebody, I think there's a lot of unanswered questions, and those questions should be answered. It's why I was disappointed with the way the Bin Laden death was handled. It just seems like when they dumped him in the sea, a lot of information went with him. I think history, at the very least, would like to know where was Bin Laden for the last 10 years.
What do you think should have happened? Do you think the U.S. military should have executed him?
Well, if the order was an execution, I think that's wrong, because I think that I thought what we did with the Germans after World War II was the right thing. They were put on trial, and they were given their day in court, and a historical record was created, and a message went out to, this is what will happen to you if you commit mass murder. This is the, whereas the way. But listen, I will say this, because, again, I know a lot of these ex-guys, the Navy SEALs and whatever, they may have been in a situation where they felt that they were acting in self-defense. But if in fact they were ordered to execute him and not bring him back, I just think that's against the American way, because we believe even the most heinous person, whether they're Charles Manson or Eichmann or anybody, should have their day in court. Because we're going to try to be civilized, even though they're uncivilized, even though they're barbaric. We're not going to be that way. That used to be a standard we tried to at least aspire to, or at least say that we aspired to it. There's no pretense about that anymore. And so I think, will we ever know where he was during these last 10 years? I kept saying from the beginning he's not in Afghanistan. And again, I got the same sort of, from that. But apparently he wasn't. Apparently he was out of Afghanistan a couple months after 9/11, and I said at the time he's either in Pakistan or he's in Saudi Arabia being protected, and we'll never know. Or maybe we will know. Maybe the truth will come out. It often does.
Finally, we've gotten all sorts of Twitter questions that relate to this. Here's one. Michael Moore seems to have all the answers. Will he ever run for office? Michigan governor, perhaps? And then we have another Twitter question from Marina Gibbs, who asked you on Twitter, are you doing a film to uncover which people in office were Wall Street enablers? Democrats blame Republicans and vice versa. And let's leave that to go into where you're going from here in your next project. Elected office, another film?
Well, first of all, I don't have all the answers. I have a lot of questions. And I think that my best work is done when I ask those questions and try and focus some attention on the things that maybe the mainstream media doesn't focus on. So that's what I'll continue to do. And in my last film, I said what I had to say about our economic system. I think it's at the core of
capitalism, a love story.
Yes, it's at the core of so much of the abuse and destructive nature of how we structure ourselves as a society. And as long as we allow greed to be the engine that drives us, we are doomed. So I will, yes, I will continue to make my films and write my books, and I'm working on a project actually for next year, and so I've got.
And the project is?
It's oh, we're on radio.
Did you just curse nonstop and we've just blanked it out?
No, I obviously I can't talk about the projects I'm doing the projects because I'm trying to get them done in one piece. But
is it internet based?
Whatever it is, it could be internet based. It could be a Broadway musical. It could be I might tour with Ice Capades.
Do you dance, sing, and skate?
I can skate. Yes, yes, and I think I can carry a song. The dance part, that's you don't want to see that.
Well, there are a lot of people out there who want their book signed, and I know that you have to leave. Thanks so much for spending this time with us, Michael Moore.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for all the good work you do, and to the people who are listening, especially get out there and make a difference and realize the power that you have.
Michael Moore, Academy Award-winning filmmaker, best-selling author. His latest book is Here Comes Trouble, Stories of My Life. If you'd like to get a copy of today's show, you can go to our website at democracynow.org. Back in a minute.